Welcome to Powell Tate's annual Leading at the Intersections report. The pace of change is accelerating, which means there's a lot for leaders and communicators to navigate. We're living at a time of polycrisis, with challenges on many fronts, from geopolitical instability to the climate crisis to the rise of disruptive technologies. It's a moment to reflect on the risks and the potential in the year ahead. It's a time for curiosity and conversation about key questions like, what can we learn from the 2024 influencer election and the challenges of communicating in a post-truth ecosystem? Curiosity is a big part of what animates our Leading at the Intersections report. It's designed for CEOs and corporate and public affairs leaders. It's a distillation of what we're seeing around the world and how we're making sense of it. Thanks for taking the time to read Leading at the Intersections. And as always, let us know what you think.
I think one of the greatest vulnerabilities going into the next 4 years will be around how Donald Trump delivers on his populist agenda. The American people said in November that they wanted a president that was going to deliver on the economy, that gas was too expensive, bread was too expensive, that their lifestyles were now unaffordable. And so how Donald Trump delivers on that could have implications for our corporate clients. We can easily see a situation where he starts to point the finger at corporations for not making good on lowering cost. As a scapegoat. So I think what we need to do is sit down with our clients, understand their vulnerabilities, and start to scenario plan really for the unknown.
Get ready to cover the Trump White House, because from my experience, it's a marathon with a sprint interspersed every 24 minutes. It's going to be a wild ride. And what is the one thing that you need to know as a professional that can help you? What you see is what you get. At the end of the day, there are no games. It is what it is, and you can react accordingly.
Megan and I are sharing what we expect Trump 2.0 will likely mean for business. First and foremost, the president will have the final word. As commander-in-chief, but also as diplomat, economist, and communicator-in-chief. And regarding what he's called the next greatest economic boom, we're likely to see constrained regulation, lower corporate taxes, and higher tariffs.
That's right. And beyond that comes the fundamental reimagining of the federal government, which is likely to be reshaped and reduced. Businesses will need to demonstrate how their policy proposals deliver against this vision of a smaller government. They'll also want to pay attention to the actual execution of some of Trump's most ambitious campaign promises, as well as how they land in the public arena. That's everything from mass deportations to lowering food and housing costs. And then they'll want to recalibrate their advocacy and marketing campaigns accordingly.
There's no doubt that we're living and working in a complex, rapidly changing world. Today, everything and everyone is considered media, and companies are facing ever-growing challenges and demands from a wide range of stakeholders, many of whom have contradictory points of view. So what's the path forward for corporate and public affairs leaders? In short, it's understanding how business and culture intersect today. Now is the time to re-examine your strategy, your values, and your messages to make sure that they will be credible, relevant, and resilient in 2025. Anticipate the announcements, the issues, the events that may spark questions or pushback from stakeholders, and build a response strategy now. You can leverage data and intelligence, including the power of AI, to help you predict stakeholder reactions and pressure test messaging, all to ensure your communications can positively break through in today's complex and often chaotic media environment.
As Christine and I talk about all the time, in this post-truth era, brands not only reflect the culture, they shape it. And so with this expanded cultural currency and responsibility, they must be a voice for good, but more importantly, they have to express values that matter to people as individuals. Because in 2025, brand advocacy is personal. And that means making people feel seen and safe and empowered, because it's harder for them to navigate in a complex world and a culture that's changing all the time. Yeah, building on that consumer perspective, Kate, first and foremost, brands really must look at consumers as real people with emotions and motivations. They do that from a marketing perspective, but they often lose sight of that when they're talking about purpose. And they need to have a profound understanding of their audience while staying true to that purpose and their long-term societal commitments, really looking for those shared values. Another thing to remember is that brand's cultural relevance and meaning is not so much created by the brand itself, but more co-created in culture, both by its advocates as well as its adversaries. It's really fluid, and this kind of co-creation is constantly being redefined every day.
Here's what the second Trump administration agenda means for energy and sustainability. Despite the fact that energy and climate conversations have become highly polarized, critical investments and strategies that will provide better outcomes in the future are still moving forward, but should be framed around common ground issues like job creation and energy independence. Up to the challenge, climate activists will need to go beyond contentious language and speak to green priorities in a way that speaks to both Republican and Democrat constituencies. While under a Trump administration, national environmental policies and global agreements may stall, state and local level actions can move the needle. Empowering regional solutions and community-driven initiatives can circumvent the gridlock in Washington and make a real impact.
Hey, Laura, how are you?
Hey, James. Good. How are you?
Good. I'm just about to jump into this presentation on media trends. If someone were to ask you what the trends were for 2025, I'm curious, what would you say?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just how much influencers have taken over. And it's not just for selling. They're holding more trust, they're getting more views than traditional media, often across so many different outlets.
I think that tracks with what I'm seeing. People who have similar aspirational lifestyles, they align on the issues, and people they just genuinely trust are the ones that they're going to follow.
So that's exactly it. It really felt like things were stagnating for a while, but now as more and more platforms are emerging, it's really all of the top influencers that are driving conversation. So one thing that has remained true throughout is that smart brands and organizations, they need to identify the specific platforms where their audiences live and have to find those authentic ways to get into and stay engaged in those conversations that matter most to them.
All right, perfect. I'll go with that. Thanks.
If you're looking for key points like the ones we just discussed, read the 2025 edition of Leading at the Intersections.
The Trump administration will approach AI policy largely through the lens of national security interests and U.S. global leadership. Business leaders should be prepared to engage in AI policy discussions so that lawmakers take a broad view of where and how AI can drive business success.
I think we can expect AI tools to become more interactive and inclusive. So instead of a separate tool for image, text, sound, motion, we'll have one tool that'll be able to create all the creative elements. So in effect, what it'll do is take someone's idea out of their mind and bring it into the real world faster and likely at a higher resolution.
Implementing AI tools in research empowers analysts to better examine large amounts of data to create action-driven insights and roadmaps for corporate communications. When refined, AI-powered analysis will uncover more insightful intelligence for businesses as they tackle more complex issues and challenges.
In today's world, where understanding and managing stakeholder views is crucial, yet polarization makes them difficult to navigate, AI tools offer a smart and scalable way to understand diverse stakeholder needs. This empowers companies to align strategies with stakeholder expectations, proactively manage risks, and make informed decisions both for today and for the future.
There are many factors at play when it comes to how public health communications can be more effective at shaping healthy behaviors every day as well as in a public health crisis. These include understanding the cultural forces and social norms that affect how people receive messages, and then translate public health science into plain English with stories that are relatable and resonant. And then be on channels and platforms and places where people are already going. Public health communications can be complicated, but AI has become an essential tool for us in making that easier, more effective. And that includes helping to simplify complex messages, customizing messages for diverse audiences, and detecting and fighting against disinformation and misinformation. And while human review and our creative thinking is always going to be important, AI has already become an essential tool for us in making health communications work better.